Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Fundamentalist Fails here at the Reading Room. I'm Mark Reed. I hope you're well. Big shout out to everybody out there, and we have some butts for you. Yes, it's my Friday. It may be your Thursday, but it's an Australian Friday. It's hot and it's awesome because I get to do Fundamentalist Fails, which is a examination of all of the really laughable fundamentalist Christian views that we love so much. And today we have a learning experience. Look, people say I'm only entertainment. Well, people say all kinds of things, but among the many things that people say, they say that I'm not educational, and I wish to push back on that because today we are bringing you some content from the World Video Bible School. Yes, the prestigious World Video Bible School apparently has been doing this stuff for like 40 years? Okay, that's wild. Hold on. I got to show you this. Where is it? Yes, this prestigious channel, the World Video. Are you going to show it program? Okay, all right. We're not going to share, please. No, don't do the video audio. Why would you do that? Why would you do that? Well, sharing is caring, but apparently I can't share. Really? Really? Share. There we go. Okay, gotcha. All right. Right. I'm on this. Hey, no. What are you doing? What are you doing? There you go. World Video, but yes, the prestigious World Video Bible School. He is not here, for he is risen. Yes, apparently so. And they do have dedicated language channels, spin-offs as well. Which I believe one of them had 18 people, which is hilarious. But, you know, that 40 years, it's so educational. So educational. It's a beautiful thing. Fear not. Oh, that's cursed. That's cursed. Yeah, a Christian's life in the Roman world. This is great. This is fantastic. But I'm not here to show you a Christian's life in the Roman world. No. Absolutely here to show you a big butt. Yes, we're looking at Carl Butts today, and I don't know why he's on this channel. I have no idea. We've done him in the past. We've done lots of Butts in the past, and Kyle Butts he's an interesting one. He sounds funny to me. He looks funny he just is this ultra serious guy that I just can't take seriously. So I've just look. All right. Call me a butt man, but I think I got to do Carl Butts again. Yes, he's the butt of our jokes. And the first one off the rank is 5 reasons atheism fails, which is great because apparently atheism has failed. I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but Carl Butts has got 5 reasons atheism, or the lack of belief in any god, has failed. I'm not sure what it was supposed to accomplish. I'm not 100% sure. Presumably it, but just know that if you're an atheist, your belief has failed for some reason. I'm not sure why. Look, I get what he's trying to say, but it's said so clumsily, okay? So clumsily. I don't know what he's talking about. But I've got a few videos because this was really short, so I've got a few from him. So bear with me, and I will get my button order here. Look, the jokes. I'm sorry if you're not here for bad puns and bad jokes. I don't know what I can do for you here. I really don't. I really don't. I think I think you're out of luck. I think that another butt stream may be good for you if you don't like it. I really think so. Now, do I have any housekeeping as we go along? I don't think so. I think that we're back on Embers in a couple of days to do another the part 3 of a debate review, which should be fun. There is I will be coming up on Kelly soon, but I'm also trying to pin down another couple of debates. I'm talking with Robin about that, which should be good. Hopefully I can get those. I met a Muslim the other day who is interested in having discussions or debate, which is which should be good. That should be good. Yeah. So let's get in order. Yeah, and probing, you're absolutely right. Yeah, how can a belief fail when it's not a belief? Puzzle me that, Batman. Yeah, yeah. It's sort of a rejection of a claim can't, it doesn't really fail. We could be wrong, but it doesn't, like, I don't know what it means to fail in that. Like, the only way, even a belief, like if you say your belief fails, the only way a belief could fail is if you try to believe in it and you can't manage it. You can't convince yourself to believe in something or not believe it. Like, that's the only way I could say. I understand what they're trying to say. They're trying to say that the arguments, that atheists use fail, but it's such a bad way of putting it because, like, it's not like a belief system like Christianity. Like, you can say Christianity fails because, if Christianity loses followers, as they are at the moment, and become sort of irrelevant to the culture as they are at the moment, that can be seen as a failure. But atheism isn't like that. I think they're sort of saying, hey, the atheism movement, it has, reasons why it fails because they're arguments, but it's just such a bad way of putting it. You just got to laugh. It really is terrible. Okay. Oh, and I got a great comment. I don't know if you caught my my last IGTA. IGTA is what I'm doing on my Wednesday or Tuesday night if you're in the eastern states. IGTA is God the arsehole, and the general consensus so far is yes, absolutely. But I'm starting to do some comment. I got a great one today. It was fantastic. So thank you for that. Anyway, let's have a look at Kyle Butts, and look, eyes are up here, but let's check out this butt. Let's check out this butt.
Every system of belief or unbelief in the world carries with it.
What's a D-min? Like, we gotta. I choose to believe that is Dick Minimal. No, it's doctorate in. Is it a doctorate or diploma in ministry? Like, I do not like. I'm really sorry. But I don't take those very seriously. Oh, it's a doctor of ministry. Okay. Doctor of ministry. I don't really take them that seriously. Look, a doctorate may be, yes. One of the things that I think there are some degrees that are easier than others. Like, the humanities are generally easier than STEM degrees, right? Like, if you are an actual medical doctor, that's a lot harder to get than a doctorate of ministry. I don't dismiss them, but I certainly think that there's doctorates out there which are a lot harder to get. Well, yeah, I mean, you're not wrong, Jess, but that's what we love about him. Come on. There's got to be, like, with so much bad happening in the world, you have to have somebody to do a pratfall. And Kyle Butts is the man for me. He really, like, every time I pause him, I giggle. Every single time. It is so good. Come on. It is so good. Every time I hit pause, I have to giggle. Because the man, like, his face is like rubber. I swear, if this man didn't get a D-min, he would be the next Jim Carrey. I swear.
Certain implications that if the belief system is true, then those implications must be true as well.
Well, yes, yeah. So a lot of these are based around the sort of Christian perspective of thinking, so that, hey, if the belief system like Christianity is true, then the implications must be true as well, right? Like, so if the Christian system of belief is true, then it must be true that you believe that Jesus rose from the dead. But we don't have a belief system like that. You may have a belief there is no God, but apart from or a belief, a not having a belief in a God, that's also under atheism as well. So not even that is consistent among atheists. It's just a rejection of a God claim, any God claim. If you accept one, then you're not an atheist. Anyone, doesn't matter which one. So the thing is that these implications that he's talking about, what are they? The only implication for an atheist is that they don't believe in a God, and that is true. Now, you can argue, hey, it must be true that no God exists, but sure, how are you going to prove that's the case? Like, demonstrate that no God exists. Or that, like, so really what I'm talking about is the falsifiability of this. It's very easy for him to falsify atheism, sorry. I don't know where my head... Look, I need some coffee. I'm sorry. It's early. I'm stammering over my words. What are you going to do with me? Look, maybe I should go and get a D-min. I feel like a failure today. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. All right, let me organize my thoughts. So there's a very easy falsification criteria for atheism, right? And that's just you show the God. That's it. It's very easily, it should be trivial for atheism to be falsified for an omnipotent being. Like the triviality. Like, you can just demonstrate the God, and there's, people postulate about how that would be done, what you would believe. Sure, I think that an omnipotent, omniscient God would be able to do that in a nanosecond. I don't know why why a God couldn't do that instantly for the entire world. It seems trivial. Whereas the falsifiability criteria of Christianity doesn't exist. Because they appeal to divine hiddenness. So they basically say, well, you shouldn't expect to see anything. You shouldn't expect to have anything revealed to you. You have to have faith. You have to just believe. And it's never sort of revealed that anything is a God. So on one side, we've got no falsifiability whatsoever. On the other side, the falsifiability is trivial and doesn't come up. Right? So when you sort of say the implications must be true, it's sort of, well, yeah, but the only implication of atheism is that in a strict sense, like a philosophical sense, that the God doesn't exist. How are you supposed to show that something doesn't exist? Well, you can't. That's the problem. Like, I could say, hey, there's a teapot around Saturn. Show that it doesn't exist. You can't. And that's part of the problem, that this is sort of a shifting a burden of proof, basically saying, we'll show that the God doesn't exist. But all Kyle has to do is show that it does.
One way to show the belief system to be flawed is to show that the implications are false. The idea that God doesn't exist implies several ideas that can't be true.
Yeah, so it doesn't. It doesn't have several ideas that can't be true. Like, there's no... Like, he's sort of trying to say a lot of atheists believe in certain things. So if they're not true, then atheism in general is not true. But atheism is not... Like, it does not hold with all of these things. This is for Christians who want to think of atheists as cookie cutter, one thing with absolutely no difference between them. Whereas, theism, we don't do that with theists. We don't think that Christians believe the same things that Muslims do, that believe the same things that Buddhists do, that Hindus do. Like, there is no cookie cutter theist. Like, if you're sort of saying, if the belief system has implications, then it must be true that a God exists. That's the only implication to be a theist, right? That's it. That's all. That's the only one. If you're talking about a Christian, then there's a ton of extra piled on top of that, like you know, Jesus rose from the dead, that God is a personal God, that you know, the Bible is true. There's a whole load of extras. But for theist, right, any flavor of theist, all that happens is a personal God. That's the only implication. Okay, so it's very so. What amazes me is these people with doctorates, like a doctorate in ministry, get so much wrong about you know, atheists and theists, and I don't believe that a person with a doctorate in ministry would do that accidentally. Like, that would make such a grievous error of sort of painting all atheists with the same brush, with, you know, it you know, you've got a doctorate. You should not be surprised when atheists say, yeah, but that's not me. That's not something that I think, you know. Appeal to consequences. I don't think so, Jess. Appeal to consequences is sort of like when you say, you sort of say, well, it can't be true because I don't like the implication. So this is the other way round. This is one is modus tollens, and this is oh, I can't remember the name of it. And this is fine. It's basically saying, so what this is, no, this is yeah, this is modus tollens. I'm sorry. Modus ponens is affirming the antecedent. So this is denying the consequent, right? So it sort of gets a bit complicated because denying the consequent is fine, right? It's like saying, if I got into a car crash, there would have to be paint from the other car on my thingo. There's paint from the other car there, therefore I got into a crash. This one's fine. This one's fine. It's not an appeal to consequence, and it's not affirming the consequent, which is sort of one of the things that yeah, it's absolutely fine. This one is denying the consequent, which is fine. Appeal to consequence is like saying, if atheism is right that there is no God, then the universe is a cold and uncaring place. It's basically saying that I don't like the consequences of that. That's an appeal to consequence. This one's saying that if atheism is true, you know, birds don't have beaks. Birds have beaks, therefore atheism is not true. It's like saying, yeah, oh, it is, Jess. It absolutely is difficult to you know, line them up. But if you have something that rests on, if you have something with a entailment, a feature that is not true, then what caused it is not true as well. It's like saying, what's the one that I usually use is a cat, right? If a cat was in a fight, it would have scratches. The cat does not have scratches, therefore it wasn't in a fight. That is modus tollens, which is fine, right? It's denying the consequent. Now, affirming the consequent is saying, if a cat got into a fight, it has scratches. It would have scratches. It has scratches, therefore it's been in a fight. That one you can't do because it can get scratches from somewhere else. But if you have an entailment which is then rejected or is not true, then whatever you said was causing it is also rejected. It's just the way that sort of logic works. Yeah, so modus ponens is not affirming the antecedent. Denying the antecedent, yeah, is the one that is not cool. Yeah, we're getting into sort of modal logic here, which is kind of a always difficult thing.
Let's look at 5 reasons that atheism fails.
Oh, yes, and this is, yeah. Okay, every time I pause the man. Every time. Yeah, absolutely. 5 reason it fails. Go for it, Butts. Go, go, go. Let's see how much your doctorate in ministry bought you.
First, atheism implies that human free will doesn't exist.
No, it doesn't. Okay, so do you see the sort of dodge that he's doing here? Do you see what he's doing here? It implies that humans doesn't have human free will doesn't exist. Well, number one, no, it doesn't. It doesn't imply that. Number two is, even if it implied it, it doesn't mean that is an entailment of atheism, right? That has to be atheism. Right, right. But the opposite works as well, Jess. If P then Q, if not Q, then not P. The opposite works as well. That's fine. Yes, yeah. If not P, then not Q. That's the first way round. But if not Q, then not P either. So compatibilism exists in atheism. I'm a compatibilist. I think that free will does exist. It depends on how you're defining that free will kind of thing. I just define it as an ability to make a choice between things or carry out another choice. Now, there's some philosophical arguments of why free will doesn't exist. A lot of atheists don't believe in free will, especially some more of the more successful ones don't believe in free will. I actually do. I'm a bit of a compatibilist, that free will is compatible with physical determinism. That has been argued. I'm not sure if anyone can prove that completely, but he's basically saying, hey, it implies that it does. Well, even if it implied it, it doesn't state outright that free will is impossible. Like, you're taking an implication and saying that is a hard case that atheism has to prove, and it doesn't. Like, it's weird.
Atheistic biologist William Provine stated, naturalistic evolution has clear consequences. Human free will is non-existent.
What is atheistic biology? You know what I mean? Like, atheistic biologist. It's such a weird title for someone. You know what I mean? Like, it's weird the way they frame this. It's very strange. But yeah, this is an appeal to authority. Even if some biologist somewhere said human free will is an illusion, doesn't mean that all atheists believe that. It doesn't mean that sort of you're compatible. And the fact that he's a biologist is kind of very telling. He's not sort of talking about free will through a philosophy lens, or any kind of lens of sort of thought. He's doing it through a biology lens. Yeah, I just because one person has this view, A, doesn't mean that it's true, and B, doesn't mean that all atheists believe that. It's not an entailment of atheism. You don't have to believe in free will, or free will doesn't have to not exist for there to be no God. Like, you could be, and I'll give you an example. You could be an atheist, think there is a supernatural force that, just say the force from the Star Wars, that surrounds us, binds us, brings us all together, and that provides free will in a certain spiritual sense, but is not a God. You're still an atheist, right? You don't believe in a God, but you still believe in free will. So it is not any kind of defeater for atheism, if there is a defeater for a belief, which I don't think there is. It's weird. It's weird.
Renowned atheist Sam Harris wrote an entire book on the subject of human free will, and he stated, "Free will is an illusion. Our wills simply are not of our own."
Yeah, Sam Harris, atheist. I love how they just put atheist instead of like neurologist, which he actually is. You know, like just an atheist. Just forget his title, demon butts, and you know, he's just an atheist. Why use, you know, isn't he a doctor of neurology? Accreditation. Yeah, he's got a PhD in cognitive neuroscience from Stanford. Yeah, no, but instead of, you know, he'll put for himself, um, you know, D Min, Doctor of Ministry, but he'll put for Sam Harris, who's a doctor in cognitive neuroscience, atheist. Thanks, buddy. Cheers. Um, you know, and hey, I think Sam Harris is a clear talker, more like Infamous. Yeah, he said a lot of terrible things. I strongly disagree with his stance on the Middle East. It's pretty bad, pretty terrible, to be honest with you. I do like his ideas of human well-being. I dislike that he has absolutely not solved the is ought problem from morality. I think his morality ideas are terrible. Like just not terrible. I mean, he kind of just does a sleight of hand. He really does. He kind of um he kind of just like wants to say, well, morality is human well-being, and doesn't really explain why it is. You know, yeah. Yeah, and sort of he does funnel people apparently um sort of into the alt-right pipeline. So I am not a huge fan. I don't know.
Making. Atheist Anthony Cashmore stated, "We have no more free will than a bowl of sugar."
So again, this is just appeal to authority. It's just naming people, saying you're the authority of this movement. You all must share the beliefs of these people because you're an atheist and they're an atheist. Look, there's atheist is a very wide tranche of people. It's not just, well, if Sam Harris thinks this, you think exactly the same. No, this is why this is for Christians, right? This isn't for atheists, right? But the problem comes for these guys when because don't forget, this is a video school, right? They're saying, hey, you can learn how to, you know, all of these arguments, all of these things for Christianity. And then they go and actually talk to an atheist, and they're quickly shot down because they're like, oh, well, you don't believe in free will. It's like, well, actually, I'm a compatibilist. And they're like, oh, well, you can't believe in free will. Like, it's sort of this, well, you've learnt from a rather big butt here that all atheists are the same and this is what their entailments are. Just like if we say, hey, you're a Christian, your entailments are you follow and, you know, believe in the Lord Jesus Christ as the Savior. You know, like that is an entailment that is true across all branches of Christianity. You know, it would be like us saying, well, you're a Christian, well, you believe you have to talk in tongues. You know, that's a Pentecostal belief, but that doesn't apply to all Christians. And atheists, it's even more so. Just because Anthony Cashmore says this doesn't mean that all atheists believe that. So their problem is when they actually touch with reality, and all of these sort of generalizations they're making does not actually hold true to all atheists.
These atheists admit that if free will exists, then atheism is false. Their solution is to deny human free will.
I'd love to see how he proves that free will actually exists, because most of that rides upon sort of in the Christian sense of giving, like, God gave you free will, and that's the entire argument. I would argue that if you think that God is omniscient, i.e. can see the future, then free will is an illusion. Because I could put it to Kyle, if God knows that I am going to drop this pen, right, and then I drop it, could I have done anything else if God knows that is the case? And the answer would obviously be no. That must happen. I never could decide not to drop the pen. Because if God is always right and God is omniscient, then that, since the beginning of time that they claim God created, that pen was going to drop. I had no, like, it seems like I have a choice, but if he can see that in advance, that is an illusion. Because in any possible world, I would have dropped the pen if God saw that as being the outcome. There is no possible world I could not have done that. So I would actually challenge him that free will exists in a Christian paradigm under those conditions.
However, the fact that you're choosing to watch this video right now proves you have free will.
Yeah, so I think sort of free will comes down to, yes, determinism throws up a whole bunch of options that you have. I think that sort of your brain goes through multiple options. Like, we've all done it before. We've, like, considered doing things and then gone, no, that's stupid. Like, our dismissal of ideas, I think, is in the essence of free will. It's sort of I think that, like evolution, it's deterministic. It's random things sort of coming up, and then deterministic on what we choose. So I think that is in essence free will, that we could have chose differently, and didn't. Because, yeah, but, I don't see anybody proving that anytime soon. I know that neurologists sort of like to say, hey, there's nothing which gives us, any reason to think it's anything but physical, but there's so much of the human brain that we don't understand. So, the problem with the free will question is there's no counterfactual, right? You're saying in some other possible world, could you have chosen different? We don't have that possible world. We don't have a counterfactual. How do you know that you could have chosen differently with the circumstances being exactly the same down to every single particle? Well, we don't. We don't have another example of that, because as soon as you make a decision, that has changed forever. So, yeah, I mean, this is just a whole bunch of nothing.
If humans do have free will, by all accounts...
So the hard determinist would argue that choice has priors or things that went into it. Like, I have seen Kyle Butts before, made me laugh. I have a show to be doing. You watch this show. You have liked this channel. Like and subscribe to this channel. Please like and subscribe to this channel. Now that I'm mentioning it. But we have these things that we do in the past, and they say a hard determinist would say, hey, all of that is the things that made you watch this video. So the choice is an illusion. Like, all of the experience that you've already had, if you look past, you see the video, and all of these experiences sort of almost made you click on it because you're like, oh, Mark Reed, he's bald and sometimes, slightly humorous, and can be a bit weird at times. Maybe he'll do something silly on stream. Yes, absolutely. Let's click on that. It's impossible to prove either way, but there is an argument to be made that, hey, yeah, it is priors. I'm a compatibilist, so I think those priors are sort of they're not really irrelevant, but they sort of determine that choice, but you still have that choice.
Atheism is false. Second, according to atheism, if humans don't have free will, then they can't be held responsible for their actions.
Well, not really true. Not really true. Any more than you can sort of say, hey, so I've been thinking a lot about this. Does morality exist if there is a determinism is true, can morality exist? And I don't think so, because if determinism is true, there is no real choice that you're having. But that doesn't mean you can't hold it responsible. For instance, I'll give you an example, right? So if you have, and sort of the whole idea of oughts becomes very simple if determinism is true. Because if determinism is true, there should be a way that if you have the same free will as a machine, then there should be a way that that's functioning, or that should be carried out. Like, so a malfunctioning computer, like a computer is no free will. Like, it just processes things. That's all it does. And it works according to architecture, which has been plotted out, etc., etc. But if your computer breaks and it's doing something that it shouldn't be doing, who do you blame for that? Well, you blame the computer. The computer is broken. So that's not necessarily true. So if there is a evolutionary process, and if it is true that according to that evolutionary process, humans are conditioned, I will say, to work a certain way, and that being pro-social behavior, survival instinct, all of these things. If that is true, then a human which is not adhering to the standards of society is not working as it should be. And while you can say, hey, when you get down to it, it's not its fault. So, and I've talked about this before. Yeah, you can't say they're to blame for that, but they're still responsible. Okay, I've talked a lot about blame versus responsibility. So he's sort of saying they can't be held responsible for their actions. Oh, yes, they can. They can't be blamed for their actions. They can't be held, guilty for their actions. Yeah, kind of, in a sense. So blame versus responsibility, right? So just say you're working at I don't know, a retail place, like an ice cream stand, and somebody comes in and says, the last person that served me ice cream, they didn't put enough in. It was only half full. I was really disappointed, really upset, right? That was your coworker who slacks off all the time, complete butt, okay? Just a complete butt. He slacks off all the time, didn't fill up the ice cream container, customer is angry. Now, are you to blame for that situation? No, of course not. It wasn't you that did it. You didn't fill up the ice cream halfway. Are you responsible for it? Yes, you are. Like, you have to say, oh, I'm so sorry. Here, have a, free small gelato on the house or whatever, right? You are responsible for correcting that problem. So, yes, we cannot blame them for their actions. They are responsible for them, right? This is the whole key thing to remember. That, for instance, things that happened ages ago, horrible things, we may not be to blame for them, but we may be responsible for correcting the injustices that have occurred since, or speaking out against the same kind of injustices may be our responsibility. And it may be all of society that's responsible. It may be, white people that are responsible. That it may be, men that are responsible. It may be women that are responsible. It may be all of us that are responsible. But in a way, we're not blaming anybody for that. So it's important to understand responsibility versus blame. And this is not true, that if free will doesn't exist, right, they couldn't actually make the choice, say that, that's the argument. Oh, well, they're a product of their environment. They had a harsh upbringing. That's all they knew. All of these kind of statements. Okay, then they can't be blamed for winding up, as a criminal or what have you. Get it? But they're still responsible for those actions, even under hard determinism, which, by the way, I don't really subscribe to. I sort of more take a compatibilist view. So, I think this is absolutely incorrect.
Don't have free will, then they can't be held responsible for their actions. If atheism is true.
Yeah, just like you say, well, it's not the computer's fault that, the guy in China where it was made or whatever put in a bad component. Well, I can't, hold the computer responsible for breaking. I can't replace parts because it's not its fault. No, absolutely not. We absolutely say, hey, like my computer bears the responsibility of not working. Like if it was a person, with no free will. We absolutely, yes, you would say, hey, we've got to take you into the shop and, okay, I'm talking to my computer like it's a person now. You see what you've made me do, Kyle Butts? I'm now talking to my computer like a person. This is what you're doing to me. But yeah, I'm sorry. What's my computer's name? Gwendolyn. Okay, I'm sorry, Gwendolyn. Just say Gwendolyn's my computer name. We've got to take you. We've got to take you in to replace the components. Like you're responsible for breaking down, but you're not to blame. I don't blame my computer, but it is responsible for keeping on working. Does that make sense? Like that sort of distinction between blaming something and having it responsible. It's a very important distinction. Look, I've only caught a couple of Robert Sapolsky's lectures, and I thought they were very good. I just find, like, I get that neurologists, and I know that Robert Sapolsky also does neuroscience. I get that they're sort of saying, hey, it's not. I just don't know how they demonstrate that without any counterfactuals.
True. There's no such thing as human moral responsibility. Atheistic biologist Jerry Coyne, in a speech titled "You Don't Have Free Will," stated, "I don't consider myself morally responsible because I don't have a choice."
Well, that's definitely one way to view it. There's another way that sort of says, hey, if determinism is true, then like a computer, the function of evolution that produced you to be a member of a population like humanity, if you are part of that population and you are doing things that are terrible, you may be responsible for sort of being a member of the human species. And that may come with behavior that is in line with evolutionary survival of that species. So it may be that. Gwendolyn's been a very naughty. Don't get me started, Sapphire. Don't get me started.
Again, Anthony Cashmore said, "From this simple analysis, surely it follows that individuals can't logically be held responsible for their behavior."
I think that this is an appeal to authority. Cannot logically be held responsible for their behavior. Yeah, I think I would differentiate between blamed. Like, I think that they cannot logically be blamed for their behavior, but I think that they can be held responsible. Just like my computer analogy, like I find my computer responsible for providing me with this stream. If it doesn't work, then I do hold it responsible. Like we hold inanimate objects responsible for breaking all the time, and sort of, without anthropomorphizing them. So I really would contest that we can't hold people responsible, even with no free will. I will admit you can't blame them, and I think that there is something to that. But yeah, we can definitely have them responsible.
You see, if we don't have a choice, then we aren't responsible. But each one of us knows that we have felt very real guilt when we've chosen to do things that we knew we're wrong. If humans can be held morally responsible for their behavior, atheism can't be true.
Well, only in a certain sense. I don't think that follows at all. I think there is versions of hard determinism, which you know, you definitely can be held morally responsible. Absolutely.
Third, according to atheism, real objective moral right and wrong can't exist.
Okay, so that is all wrong. There are people, and it's really funny how he mentions Sam Harris, right? And says, oh, he says that free will doesn't exist. Sam Harris believes in objective morality. Right? So, he'll use one guy who disagrees with his next point, but he won't put him up saying, hey, that's wrong. And this is what I mean about an appeal to authority. He's basically going to one authority on one thing, but doesn't use them for the next. So, I think that Sam Harris, I disagree that objective morality does exist, but I'm not saying it can't exist, right? Like, I'm not saying that it's impossible that there's real objective morals. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that, hey, I don't think it exists. But as I've said in my last debate on morality, that's not a hill I would die on. If, say, evolution provided objective morality, then I'd be fine with that. I wouldn't lose a night's sleep over it. I'd be like, okay, then objective morality does exist. I don't know why I'd be upset about that. Like I said, if you don't believe in free will, then just like how a computer ought to be operating, or evolution ought to be operating, there may be objective morality. If that is true, I'm not sure that it is. I don't think it is. I don't think there's anything that says, evolution has to go in a certain direction. But if that is true, then, hey, you can argue for objective morality. I don't know. I don't think so. Everything that I've seen points to morality as being a created and codified, sort of way of conducting oneself that fits into society, culture, and society. So that is not something according to atheism. There's a lot of atheists that think that objective morality is a thing. Dr. Graham Oppy, who's a fantastic philosopher in Australia, he believes in objective morality, and that's okay. I mean, I can't disprove him. Like, I can't say, oh, I'm going to show you how it's absolutely subjective. No, it's just, that is not, like, all of this stuff is just a straw man of atheism, because it does not entail any of this.
Charles Darwin stated that if a person doesn't believe in God, he can have for his rule of life, as far as I can see, only to follow those impulses and instincts which are the strongest, or which seem to him the best ones.
Sure. Yeah. And if it is true that determinism is a thing, and that the best way to survive is pro-social behaviors, like, creating a solid social networked connection between human beings in order to survive against, well, very hostile environments around us, then that is the best way to go. That may be objective morality if that is true, but I don't hold to that.
As philosopher Jean Paul Sartre admitted, everything is indeed permitted if God does not exist.
Well, when you're saying permitted, he's not saying it's permitted within society. He's saying that there's no objective sort of oughts that come with the universe. Like, the universe just doesn't care. It just doesn't care. Like, if you are a monster or a saint, it doesn't really care. Like, it's not going to stop you. And we seem to, have that play out. Like, people have done all kinds of awful things, and the universe hasn't stopped them or, inflicted casualty on them. It seems to be a product of our society saying what is good for the society and what is bad for the society. But that doesn't mean to say that everything should be permitted within society.
If it's true that it is objectively wrong to murder innocent people just for fun, then by all accounts, atheism can't be.
Is that objectively? I mean, a lot of people have a problem with that, but is that objectively true? I love how he skips past, doesn't show that it's objectively true. This is an appeal to emotion, right? Like, it's appeal to say, hey, you really don't like this thing. It's terrible, isn't it? It's horrible. It makes you feel bad. Like, somebody just doing this for fun is awful and horrible and terrible. Therefore, it has to be objectively wrong. No, I would like it if it was. I really would. But what I like has nothing to do with what is true. Like, this is the thing. This is just an appeal to emotion from presumably a guy with a doctorate in well, it's ministry, but, a guy with a doctorate is basically doing the most base appeal to emotion. Oh, but you want it, it's so bad, it's terrible. Yeah, it is. But I don't think the universe cares. Like, I don't think the universe goes, well, objectively, that's wrong. No, we say it's wrong.
True. Fourth, if atheism is true, human life is meaningless.
I don't know how this Butt got this. I don't know where Kyle Butts got this from. I have no idea. If atheism is true, human life is meaningless. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot my life has no meaning. Excuse me while I go and wallow. What are you talking about?
Atheist Alex Rosenberg wrote, "What is the purpose of the universe?" in his book, The Atheist's Guide to Reality. He stated, "There is none." What is the meaning of life? Ditto.
Yeah, so I don't know if you know this, but what's the purpose of the universe? There is none. Yeah, I'm not the universe. What is the meaning of life? He's talking about an intrinsic meaning of life, and I feel like he's maybe sort of quote mining people or cherry picking what they've sort of said. It's kind of saying, hey, there's no intrinsic meaning to life. That doesn't mean that we don't make our own meaning to our own lives. That doesn't mean we don't choose for ourselves purpose. Like, this is the stupid thing. He's sort of saying, well, if you're not born with a specific purpose, then it's all just meaningless. It's a complete waste of time. Why? Wow.
Meaning there is none. Atheist Graham Lawton, the executive editor of New Scientist magazine, wrote a very brief article titled "The Meaning of Life." His first line read, "The harsh answer is, it has none."
Yeah, so this is sort of quote mining, which is, this is sort of quote mining, sort of just taking very, very select snippets and sort of going, oh, look, it's kind of like that thing they did when they got the eye and Darwin and said, oh, my intuition says that the eye couldn't have come about by evolution, but it did. And they leave out the part where it says, but this is actually so. And this quote mining is just, we're basically saying, just because life comes about, just say life comes about as a cosmic accident, right? Like, it's just accidental, roll the dice, it comes up, snake eyes. Sure, why not? Comes up snake eyes, you and I here, it's just chance, it's all just chance, and there's no actual meaning behind it. That doesn't mean that we can't find meaning for ourselves. And that is part of the sort of experience of life, is finding what you think is important and working towards it. That is part of finding your purpose. He's sort of pointing to people saying, hey, the universe has no intrinsic purpose, and saying, well, then humans are meaningless. They've got no purpose. No, that's what? But Birds.
Dan Barker wrote, "You and I are like ants or rats or pieces of broccoli, really, in the big picture. We are no different than a piece of broccoli in the cosmic sense.
Yes.
If a human life has more objective value than a stalk of broccoli,
He didn't say value. He said like purpose and things. Like he's really conflating terms here, right? Because value is, value is in a certain sense, like that is a subjective thing. What you're defining as value, like I may see value as being what has monetary value. He's sort of talking about intrinsic value. I think that in a way you could argue for it because just the apparent rareness of life. Like we've got a number of planets in our solar system. Life only seems to exist on one. Like we haven't ever found any other signs of life than our own planet, not definitively. So the apparent scarcity of life gives it value, but it depends how you're using that word, right? It depends on how you're using it. The scarcity of life that can consider its own existence again makes humans valuable. But what is that value based upon? They're sort of saying in the universe's perspective, from a sort of a cosmological perspective, it doesn't value it. But again, value is subjective to whatever is considering it. So this is like objective value is a really weird, a weird term. Like, why would we have objective value to a god? Like he's proposing, oh, we have objective value under a god system. Why? Isn't our value is that God created us and loves us? Isn't that what gives us value? And if so, then that is just subjective. Why does it have objective value under his paradigm? Like, why are humans valuable if this is just a temporary state of being before going on to the afterlife? What is the value? And why is it objective? So this is very, very strange that he would make this argument, because value usually has, like, what's objective value? What is that? I don't know what that is. It's very strange.
atheism can't be true. Fifth, atheism demands that nothing spiritual or supernatural exist in the world.
No, it doesn't. Get out of here, Kyle. Get out. Actually, I got to pause him on. There we go. We need a funny face from Kyle to lighten us up. Look, no. You can believe in all kinds of supernatural things and still be an atheist. I could believe in crystals, magic, the force. I could believe that my farts smell really good magically. I could believe in Bigfoot. I could believe in spirits. I could believe in almost anything except a god. So that is patently not true. And someone with a doctorate in ministry, even in ministry, should know that. That is absolutely not true, sir. Absolutely not true. But please do present your magical stuff, your spiritual magical things for my perusal. Please. Because I don't, supernatural things, go for it. Show them.
That would mean humans have no soul. It would imply...
Oh, no. Okay, so, Jess, this is an appeal to consequence, right? If atheism is true, then humans have no soul. You don't like the consequences of the entailment, right? You're just basically saying, hey, I don't like it if humans have no soul. Okay. I don't base things are true or false on what I like or how distasteful it is to me. Yeah, it basically comes down to this, and I think this is the problem. If atheism is true, then I'm going to die and not exist one day. That's it. That's their entire argument. If atheism is true, it means I will not be here one day and I don't like it one bit. Hey, welcome to the human experience, my guy. Seriously. Oh, I would never disparage Bigfoot Jesus. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Look, I could believe in Bigfoot Jesus and still be an atheist as long as Bigfoot Jesus was not a god. But as everybody knows, Bigfoot Jesus is a god. So checkmate, atheists. Checkmate. Hang on, where's my thing? There we go. There you go. Have some BJ. That's a really bad term. Look, Bigfoot Jesus, I made up the initialization BJ for Bigfoot Jesus. I regret. Okay, I regret.
Why there's no such thing as real love or courage.
Real love? What? Is real love supernatural? Now, I'm sorry, is love supernatural? What?
Or virtue. But what we call love or virtue would just be a mechanism to pass on our genetic information. Richard Dawkins stated that humans are survival machines, robot vehicles blindly programmed to preserve selfish molecules known as genes.
Look, Dawkins is a dick. Like, quite frankly, Dawkins is a terrible, terrible person. He's not wrong about that, but that doesn't mean that love doesn't exist. Like, oh, it's got to be supernatural, or I don't feel good about it. So what? So what? Like, what? If atheism is true, then love is just a biological function used in the it's also for bonding to people, right? It's a pro-social development that allows people to form very strong bonds. That is also a benefit. Like, I don't agree with Dawkins that, but he's not talking about that, right? Like, when we're sort of talking about humans in general, right? Like, a lot of it is because we are known as an ultra social organism. Like, humans are so socialized in the hierarchy of animals that if we don't experience social interaction with others of our kind, we go a bit crazy. We need that to survive, social interaction, and part of that is pro-social behaviors. And it is incredibly beneficial to the survival of the species that people form incredibly strong bonds with one another. It's really helpful. It's really good. But the idea that it has to be supernatural, what are you basing that on? Love is supernatural. Okay, looks like MDMA is now magical for some reason.
In a very real sense, if you have ever really unselfishly loved another person, atheism can't be true.
No. Look, I guarantee that Carl Butts doesn't know how evolution works. He doesn't know how evolution. He doesn't know that sort of loving unselfishly another person is it's a survival mechanism in order to create populations that will survive together, because cooperation and formation of these really strong bonds between humans is a really good way to survive. This has been studied a lot. You've got sort of prisoner's dilemma kind of stuff. It's called game theory, where it's studied. Does cooperation achieve more success, or does competition achieve more success? And you'll actually find it's cooperation every single time, hands down. Being cooperative is a really good way to achieve things. So this whole thing is just ridiculous.
Ultimately, atheism strips humanity of everything that makes us human.
No, it doesn't. What are you talking about? What are you talking about, Butts? What are you going on about? It doesn't. Atheism does not strip humans of humanity. Like you don't need to believe in a soul to be human. You don't. No, you don't need a god to live happy. You don't. Absolutely not. There are plenty of people who are happy. In fact, if you look around the world at the happiness index, it's surprising. Like the Scandinavian countries, which are more atheistic, more secular, are the happier ones. There's a lot of very happy people without a god. In fact, one of the major predictors for mental health issues in young people is a belief in demons. It's a problem because you can't get the God belief without getting the opposite. You can't have the optimistic hell without the depressing and scary, the optimistic heaven without the depressing and scary hell. So no, you don't need a god to live happy. Atheism doesn't strip humans of humanity. It doesn't give them any. It's like all of this. Atheism's completely silent on all of these issues. It doesn't weigh in the slightest. Like in the slightest. It doesn't. It's got nothing to say about it. It's wild. Like, you don't believe in a god. Oh, you've stripped me of all my humanity. What are you talking about?
Human. It denies our free will, our moral responsibility, and sense of real right and wrong.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Just because some atheists don't believe in that doesn't mean that all do. This is like saying that all theists think that Jesus is God. No, not all theists think that. Right? There's Muslims, there's Hindu, there's all kinds of different theists, right? Like you may be able to make an argument saying that hard determinists do, but that's all. And I don't think it's a particularly good argument even to hard determinists, but all you're doing is just saying some atheists think this. That applies to all atheists. It is a straw man. It's just a straw man.
It robs our lives of purpose and any real meaning, and it slanders every commendable attitude.
Oh, it slanders. Well, I'll see you in court, sir. I will see you in court. I've been slandered. Oh, come on now. Come on.
Attitude of love, virtue, and kindness as a manipulation strategy we use to pass on our DNA.
Well, no, that's not the only reason. I mean, yeah, in a circumstantial way, it kind of leads to that. But mostly, it is about having cooperative societies or cooperative populations, right? Like populations that will defend one another, because all of this doesn't exist in a vacuum. We come from a place where, so if you're unaware, and I know that Karl Barth doesn't know anything about evolution, but humans are weak. We are incredibly weak, insanely weak, right? Like you get an animal the same size as a human, like maybe a panther or something, about the same size, same weight. We are insanely weak compared to that animal, right? Like we are not very strong. We're very flimsy. We don't have, spikes or claws or fangs or anything to really defend us. Even a chimpanzee is smaller and lighter than a human. They can rip our face. Like they are so much stronger than us. What we do have is an incredible brain and cognitive power, right? That's what we've selected as our advantage, cognition. But it does mean, and the other thing that we have going for us is ultra social behavior, right? So really social behavior. We have some other advantages, here and there. socio-technical ability. And what socio-technical ability is, it's the ability to pass on technical things, like how to manipulate things with our hands, to each other, right? Like, so my ability to teach somebody how to, make a stick into a spear, I can teach that to somebody. Well, that's what you're all here for, let's face it. But yeah, I can teach that to somebody else. That is an incredible ability that other animals don't have. So communication, cognitive power, but physically we're incredibly weak. So we've got to work together, and that is our survival strategy. So he doesn't understand that. He doesn't understand that. It's just, it's all for just reproduction. No, survival isn't just about reproduction. It's also about preserving as well.
In light of this information, C.S. Lewis's conclusion as...
Oh, not C.S. Lewis. He was terrible. He was terrible. Absolutely terrible.
He abandoned atheism still rings true. Consequently, atheism turns out to be too simple.
Okay. Just a comment. Yeah. Conjecture God is. You can only speculate and hands down conjecture God is the all-powerful. If you said you believe in a higher power and then you said you don't believe in God, you aren't an atheist. You're a hypocrite. Well, don't forget that theist, right? Like, so atheist and theist are opposites. So a theist is somebody that believes in a personal God. So a deist, for instance, isn't a theist, but they're not an atheist either. It depends on what that higher power is. Because if I said I believe in a higher power, but that higher power is extra-dimensional aliens who are not a god, then what are we even talking about? Like, if that's a god, then the god's mundane. It's ordinary. It's just a more technologically advanced species. Are you an atheist then? I would say so, yes. Yes. It depends what you mean by higher power. It depends what you mean by that. Because higher power could mean all kinds of things. I mean, there's sort of panpsychists that believe that the universe is the or everything exists as a mental construct kind of thing. The entire universe is a mental construct. Look, you're not an atheist, but are you a theist? No, absolutely not. So what? If I believe in magic, am I an atheist? If the magic is just magic that is, something that exists in the world, yeah, absolutely, I'm an atheist. So you don't have to, this whole idea of if you believe in something supernatural, then you're not an atheist. Absolutely not. Oh, have I got a raid? Do I? Who is a raid from? Thank you. Oh, it was Skeptic Haven. Did I miss that? I'm not sure why, but the notifications don't seem. Oh, there we go. There we go. Oh, thank you very much, Skeptic Haven. I really appreciate it. Welcome, welcome. We're just having a butt entertain us. We're enjoying the big butts. So I do have a second video. I will pause here. I do have a second one from our boy Kyle Butts. We do have a second one here because he makes me giggle. So we're going to go through this one. This one is this one actually made me think. I know, shocking, right? But it actually made me think. It's what if someone dies before baptism? And I found it interesting because it's a good question, right? Like, if only the baptized are let into heaven and you're on your way to a baptism, cross the road and get hit by a truck, are you still saved? Is basically it. And I went,
In the New Testament, on numerous occasions, we read that a person, in order to obey God and to be added to the Lord's church and to come in contact with the blood of Jesus, is to be immersed into water.
Is that elder abuse? I think that's elder abuse. Look, leave the guy alone. And I mean, look at this place. I would not like. Look, there's grout stuff. Wash your tub, sir. Look at that. Look at that. Hang on. Can I oh, I can't access that. How interesting. Anyway, look at that. Look at that grout. Come on now. There's like black mold in the side there. Look, I'm being facetious, but dude, like, I don't understand. Why are you fully dressed as well? Does anyone else find this weird that he's fully dressed? Like, dude, put on some board shorts, my guy. I like. Why is he like dressed up? What? Okay, I'm very confused. Maybe it's because I'm Australian and we see people in board shorts and stuff all the time. Maybe if he was like in speedos, it might be a bit like awkward. But it's just weird that he's like fully okay. Shouldn't he be in a robe or something? I don't know. I feel like there's got to be this does not make sense to me.
To be baptized. But one of the most frequently used arguments against the idea that baptism is necessary for salvation is the idea that, hey, I don't think God would allow a person to hear something they need to do, like be baptized, and then if they die just before they are baptized, not allow them to go to heaven.
Right. Why not? What about God's character do you think that if he had a law or I mean I presume God's rules are God's laws because that's what he says is required. If he says it is required to be baptized and you get hit by a bus crossing the road to go get baptized, why he wouldn't enforce that? What about God tells you that? I mean, we're talking about a God that sent she-bears to murder a man because he made murder some children because they made fun of a guy's bald spot. Like, what makes you think he wouldn't enforce that? Apart from, perhaps, did you raid me as well, Kip? Thank you if you did. Thank you. Fat bag of the king in the book of Daniel? Okay. Like, what makes you think that God wouldn't strictly enforce that rule? Like, we're talking about a God who does not look at whether someone is a good or a bad person after they die, whether they, are given eternal reward or whether they are tortured for eternity. They don't look at whether they're a good or a bad person, whether they helped humanity or not. They look at whether they believe in God, in Jesus or not. And if you didn't follow Jesus, then there's no way you're getting into heaven. You're going straight to hell. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. So what makes you think that a God wouldn't enforce that law, that rule of theirs? Apart from, it sounds kind of like a dick move. Sir, have you read the Old Testament? Have you read the Old Testament? I mean, is God an asshole is sort of one of the things that I do. Like, if a human was doing what God did in the Old Testament, they would be not only a war criminal, but the worst war criminal that ever existed, quite frankly. Quite frankly. What are you saying? Yes, we can confirm that man was not a witch. Okay.
The question is often framed like this: what if a sincere person on his way to be baptized dies right before he gets to the water? Are you telling me that God would send that person to hell just because he didn't make it to the water?
Yeah, so okay, here's a better one for you. What if the guy is being baptized and the pastor is a fake pastor, turns out to be a serial killer and drowns him in the water? What then? What happens then? What happens if he goes to be baptized, it's a particularly stormy day, and lightning strikes him as he's standing there in the water, and he's not baptized, does it still count? What if somebody goes and is baptized, and it turns out the person that baptized him was a con artist pretending to be a pastor, and he had no authority to baptize him in the first place, and was never a believer? Does it still count then? In the words of George Carlin, when does all of this stuff just descend into complete bullshit? Like it's meaningless. It doesn't matter. Like if God needs you to be baptized to get into heaven, why would he make exceptions? Because what's the cutoff period as well? Like this raises further questions. If there's a cutoff period, right? Like, so if you're like, go, oh, well, I need to be baptized. I'm going to be baptized. I just want to have it a week from now. And then you have a sudden heart attack and die. Then does God let you into heaven then? What if you put it off for a year? Like, is there a hard and fast rule with this? I don't know. Well, yeah, I mean, purgatory was something that the Catholic Church made up, because there's the question of, what if a baby dies, kind of thing. They didn't get baptized yet. They couldn't, understand that the faith kind of thing. That's something they kind of made up so that children who hadn't accepted the Lord wouldn't be burning in hell, because it upsets parents when their children are tortured for eternity.
At first glance, that argument may seem to have some legitimacy. But when you look at it further and you start to get to the bottom of it, you see that really it's just a play on emotions.
No, okay, but you're the one claiming that these rules, like, people have to be baptized, and the book is inerrant. It cannot be incorrect. So if they say that in the book, one of those things has to be true. Either there has to be these loopholes, or the book's incorrect. It's not an emotional plea. You're pleading to emotion by saying, yes, I know there's these rules that I have said needs absolutely to be done in order to be saved. But would God really do that? It seems unpleasant, and God isn't unpleasant. That's an appeal to emotion.
It doesn't disprove the necessity of baptism. And here's why. The argument God wouldn't do that can be used against almost any commandment in the Bible that the Bible states is necessary for salvation. For instance, the Bible repeatedly says that a person has to believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God in order to be saved.
Yes.
Now, suppose that a Christian had just begun to tell the story of Jesus, maybe to an older gentleman. He is about to tell him about the death of Christ and the resurrection, and then that gentleman suddenly has a massive heart attack and dies without getting to hear the rest of the story.
I smell AI. Kyle Butts is now reduced to using AI. Wow. AI is your god now, Kyle.
And he didn't have the opportunity to believe.
Yeah. And so there's these things of, what about people that have never heard the word of God? Yeah, it's a good question. Do they go directly to hell? And a lot of preachers are like, oh no, they have an exception. So I think Ember told me about this one, but it was sort of one where basically the Christians went to a Native American tribe and they sort of said, hey, we're bringing you the good word of Jesus so that you can be saved when you die. And he said, well, what happens if I don't believe it? And they're like, well, you get tortured forever in hell. And he's like, well, what if you'd never come and told me? And he said, well, if you have no opportunity to know about it, then you go straight to heaven. And so the guy's response is, well, why did you tell me about it? If I get a free pass to heaven, if I don't know about it, then why tell anybody? But it's sort of, like they want to say, oh, but if there's an old man, he doesn't know about it, he goes to heaven because there's a loophole for people who are never told about Jesus Christ. Then why are you telling him about it? All you're doing is endangering his soul. What kind of a monster are you? Like that young man is basically taking away his golden ticket to the chocolate factory. Why would you do that? Because if that old man's going to die and go straight to heaven because he never heard about it, that guy is doing him a vast disservice, like a horrible disservice, because he's basically taking away his free pass. Why would you do that? Why would you evangelize at all? Why not just, don't tell anybody about God, don't tell anybody about the religion, everyone gets a free pass to heaven. The world is a happy place.
Should we therefore then say, you don't have to believe in Jesus Christ to be saved? Because in a theoretical scenario, it might be possible to concoct a situation in which the person dies right before they are permitted to obey something that the Bible says is necessary for salvation? No. We can't do that. And we certainly can't, with a wave of the hand, do away with the biblical command to be baptized for the forgiveness of sins, because we could say, what if a person dies before that happens? Now consider the fact that the Bible plainly teaches that God wants all men to be saved.
I don't know what he's trying to say here. Like, I think he's trying to say, hey, God understands and has a loophole kind of thing. But that doesn't make any sense for the reasons I've said. Because at some point, you've got to have a cutoff, right? Does God know that you would have believed and wouldn't have? Because some people have taken the tack with me. Oh, well, God knows in advance of whether you would become a believer or you wouldn't. Then why bother with the whole evangelizing thing? If God knows who is righteous and who deserves torture, why bother? Why bother with any of this Christianity? Because that's what somebody said about, tribes that hadn't heard. God knows their character ahead of time and knows who should get into heaven and who shouldn't based upon what they would have believed if they had heard of it. Well, if that's the case, why bother with this entire song and dance? What's the point if God knows already? Like, if I never find out, but God knows whether I'm a good person and would have believed or I'm a bad person and wouldn't have believed, then why bother telling anybody? No, I don't think so, Jay. I don't think so. Thank you. Look, if Maya sent any people my way, thank you so much. Really appreciate it, but I'm not 100% sure. Not sure. Couldn't tell you.
In 2 Peter, the inspired apostle said, the Lord is not slack concerning his promise, as some count slackness, but is long-suffering toward us, not willing that any should perish, but that all should come to repentance.
Yeah, and this brings up a really, really sort of a big problem logically with sort of the omnipotence, omniscience, omnibenevolence, and a wish to be accepted by all people, to be embraced by all people, because an omniscient God would know that in order to be embraced by all people, they've got to appear first. They've got to actually show that they exist. So any God with power, unlimited knowledge, would know how to convince everybody and do it. It's not hard. I can convince people I exist all the time. I do it on a daily basis. I convince people that I exist. Very easily, I convince people that I exist. Suckers! But apparently God is incapable of doing that. Why? Like, if he wants people to know that he exists, and ostensibly he does, he has unlimited power, unlimited knowledge, so he knows what would convince everybody, it would be a triviality to convince everybody. And he can't. Or won't. And either way, it's a problem. And they appeal to divine hiddenness, or the God is hiding. Why would a God that wants you to know that he exists and embrace him as your savior hide? Because if I wanted people to know that I exist, I wouldn't hide from them. So that makes no sense to me whatsoever. So either God does not want everybody to know that he exists. Maybe he only wants the gullible to know that he exists. Okay. But that's not what they're saying. He apparently wants everyone to know. If it's only the gullible, yeah, it works. But he has failed to convince me that he exists. And according to them, God can't fail. So something is not true here, which I think it is that God just doesn't exist. Or that God definitely doesn't exist.
Old Testament prophet Ezekiel was instructed by God to convey this message to the Israelites on God's behalf. As I live, says the Lord God, I have no pleasure in the death of the wicked, but that the wicked should turn from his way and live. Paul told the young preacher Timothy that God desires.
Can I convince an ontological nihilist that I exist? Well, no. But that's a very, very weird state to be in, and an ontological nihilist would sort of say things cannot exist. I'm not saying that a God can't exist. All I'm asking for is reasonable evidence of the God. I don't think ontological nihilists are asking for reasonable evidence that there is something. They're just claiming that something is an illusion. So if you can explain to me what it is that God has done to convince me that he exists, go for it.
All men to be saved and to come to the knowledge of the truth. Therefore, if a person truly and honestly wants to become a Christian by being baptized into Christ for the forgiveness of his sins, as God commanded, then isn't it the case that God, who wants all people to be saved and is watchful of each human being, that he would provide them with that opportunity? Isn't it true that no sparrow falls to the ground apart from God's knowledge, as Matthew 10:29 says, and God is no respecter of persons? Then we can be sure that God, in his providential wisdom and care, will fairly ensure that every person is given a proper opportunity to respond to his commands.
So if that's the case, if the grandpa dies in this scenario, like he has a heart attack just before he's told about it, and God knows that God will give him a fair shake, based upon his omniscience. He knows everything, right? And will fairly judge him. Then what's the point of telling him about it? Can't God just do that for everybody? Is that what, why bother with converting people? Why bother at all? There seems to be no point to it. That's the problem. If you're basically saying, hey, there's these loopholes that if you're a good person and you would have believed and all of this stuff, we didn't need to tell you about it because you're saved anyway because, reasons, then why bother doing any of this at all?
What are we saying? We're saying that if there is a sincere person who wants to be baptized into Christ, and God providentially watches over everything that's going on in this world, God is not going to accidentally let someone die before he or she is baptized. Just like he wouldn't accidentally.
Are you saying that somebody who, where's the counterfactual? This is a massive claim. He's saying that nobody has died just before a baptism if they truly want God. If they truly want to be saved and baptized and, their soul redeemed and whatever their sins washed away from the blood of Christ or whatever their blood ritual is. nobody has ever died between deciding that and actually carrying it. Seriously? Seriously. What the hell? Like, what the hell? How do you show that? How do you show that no one, wow. Okay.
Mentally let someone die before that person had the opportunity to believe in Christ or to repent of her sins or
wash your tub. Wash your tub. Put on some board shorts, my guy. Like, having wet pants coming out of it can't be good. It can't be good.
To be baptized into Christ. God wants all to be saved.
Yeah, then the first thing God should do is actually show up. Like, wow. Just show up. Do something. The problem is, the more time we get into this sort of technological revolution that we're having at the moment, the less evidence we have. And now it's sort of, feelings and, oh, you sense it inside you. This fluffy kind of nonsense stuff. The last big miracle was probably that one in Spain, the children and the miracle, which wasn't really a miracle. I covered that a while back. It really is a terrible, like, as capture devices, phones have cameras. As this has gotten better, there's been less and less and less evidence. And that's a problem. Because, Kyle, if God wants us to be saved, as we get better at documenting the reality around us, there should be more evidence. And there's not. There's less and less and less. So unless you are saying that God's divine hiddenness escalates along with our technology to discover him, why would a God that wants everyone to be saved do that?
And God will ensure a fair opportunity for everyone.
Yeah, I don't know how you can tell that. I'm not sure if God gave a fair opportunity to the children he sent the she-bear to maul. I don't know what about God gives you this inclination that his... Like, I remember that I think Moses burnt Aaron, his brother, killed him because he burnt some strange incense on the altar. Does that sound like a God who's going to go, okay, Harold, I know you were crossing the street to get baptized and hit by a bus. I'm going to make an exception for you. I really don't think so. I think that a God would, if he's got a rule, that he wouldn't break it under any circumstance. But this is apparently these baptism rules aren't rules. They're more like guidelines, according to Kyle Butts. So, I don't know. But that's Kyle Butts. He doesn't have very good arguments. He paints with a broad brush. He's got these ideas of atheism that all atheists are the same and they all believe these things, which is not true. Even Christians have many varied beliefs. Some think that you need to handle snakes and can drink poison. Some don't. Some think that you're saved through works. Some think you're saved through faith. Some believe that once saved, always saved. Others don't. We don't paint people with these kind of brushes. But as I said, this video isn't for atheists. It's for Christians to say why atheism's false and why you have these logical problems with people being saved. And, how do we get around that? So, yeah, I just wanted to introduce you to World Video Bible School. And I like Kyle Butts because his arguments are terrible. And he's really quite funny to me. Really quite funny. But yeah, those were the couple that I had. I might wind up early. Usually I do a couple of hours. I do apologize. It's just I'm definitely very tired today. I've had a long week, and I'm going to wrap it up. But I hope you've had fun. This has been Fundamentalist Fails. The fundamentalist in question has been Kyle Butts and Worldwide Video. productions, which is kind of funny. But yeah, if you're on the way to be baptized or even thinking about it, apparently, I mean, why doesn't God just drop the whole baptism thing and go, hey, if somebody's a good person, why not reward them? And if somebody is, oh, I don't know, like Jeff Epstein, like I'm going to punish them. Why not drop the whole song and dance? Except that the religion needs money. As George Carlin said, all powerful, all knowing, just can't handle money. God needs more money. And getting people into the pews and getting them donating, getting them, tithing. Tithing's the thing. Give a percentage of your income to God. Well, it's to the priests and to the church, but it's still God. But anyway, I hope you have enjoyed. Is it old? I don't know. I just caught it on this channel kind of thing, the Worldwide Bible Video School or something, and I he always cracks me up. So they may be like they may have bought it off him. So I'm not sure how old it is, but I don't know. I don't know. I think Carl Butts is still knocking around. I don't think he's gone anywhere, unfortunately. But that's okay because he definitely makes me laugh. So thank you so much for joining me, everyone. Don't forget to like, subscribe, write a comment if you loved it. Write a comment if you didn't love it. That's fine. I'm good with that. Anyway, be kind to yourself. The universe may not have a purpose for you, but definitely be kind to yourself and go, hey, I can make my own purpose. Like the whole idea that life's meaningless because the universe didn't make you with some intrinsic purpose is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Like it's not like, we can find our own purpose in things. We can find our own expression in things. It's totally okay. I don't know why the universe has to have a purpose for us. I'm not 100% sure. But start by being kind to yourself, kind to each other, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, everybody.